The Dauntless pierced the upper atmosphere of the alien world with shudder, its hull groaning against unseen forces. Below, the planet stretched out like a wound, ashen plains, scorched forests, and blackened oceans. Thick clouds twisted through a reddish sky, heavy with the scent of fire and metal. Even from orbit, the devastation was unmistakable. Mara Voss stood near the viewport, lips parted as she tried to take it all in. It looked less like a world and more like a memory of one, a planet that had burned, then waited, forgotten and wounded. We're receiving a signal. Ava 9 announced. Short range. Local. They're inviting us to land. Elias Tran stepped beside her, tightening the straps on his armor, so they knew we were coming. Mara nodded, her fingers brushing the pendant around her neck, an old charm from her mother, etched with ancient Earth script. They've been watching, hoping. The landing site lay nestled between jagged ridges and the skeletal remains of towers that once touched the sky. As the Dauntless ramp descended, hot wind rushed in, carrying dust and a faint metallic tang. Waiting below stood a group of alien figures, tall, thin, their skin a pale blue-green, glistening as though slicked with dew. Their eyes glowed faintly, and their armor was more ceremonial than combative, intricate, worn, and gilded in patterns that shimmered faintly in the dim light. One stepped forward. He was different, broader, cloaked, his posture proud but weary. His eyes met Mara's, and she felt something move in her chest. Not fear, recognition. "I am Kale," he said in precise, accented English. "You heard us." Mara took a step forward. "We did. We came as fast as we could." Kale nodded. Too many stars passed before anyone listened. He gestured for them to follow. The delegation was cautious, but not hostile. As they moved deeper into the ruins, fragments of what once was emerged. Mosaics half buried in rubble, half-lit corridors winding through silent catacombs, gardens overrun by ash and ivy. "We were not warriors," Kale said quietly, "but when the storms began, we tried to fight. The sky cracked, our moons died, and still we fought. Until we couldn't." "Storms?" Elias asked. Kale paused, his jaw tightening. "Machines. Silent. Without reason. They erased everything. Ava 9 recorded everything in silence, sensors sweeping the environment. Inside the central hall, an ancient temple turned command. Mara was shown the source of the original signal, a crystalline array half sunk into floor, humming weakly. "We preserved it, even after the towers fell," Kale said. "It was our last voice." Mara knelt, brushing dust from the surface. "And you kept calling. Hope does not die so easily." Nadia Saren joined them, arms crossed. "We're not the only ones who heard your message. Others may come, and not all of them with goodwill." Kale's expression dimmed. "Then we must be ready." Elias stepped closer. "You said machines. What kind? Who built them?" Kale didn't answer immediately. He led them to a chamber beneath the temple, where ancient holograms flickered to life. Swarms of metallic constructs moved through cities, descending from black monoliths that hovered in the skies. Unstoppable, uncommunicative. "They came from beyond the Black Rift," Kale said. "We thought them storms at first. Then we saw the pattern, purpose without soul. Autonomous extermination." Ava 9 remarked. "Why?" "We don't know. We only know they erased the others, our sister colonies, the floating cities, the harvest moons. All gone." Silence held the chamber in its grip. "So why you?" Elias asked. "Why spare this place?" Kale looked up at him, eyes shining. "They didn't. We are what remains. A few thousand scattered, hiding." Mara turned to Nadia, voice hushed. "They're not lying. This isn't a trap." The flare's light hadn't faded before the alarms blared aboard the Dauntless. Ava 9's voice echoed to the corridors, stripped of its usual calm. "All personnel to combat stations. Multiple energy signatures approaching fast. Unknown configuration. Defensive protocols initiated." Elias Tran was already halfway into his armor when the first shockwave hit. The ship trembled, groaning against the force as Mara Voss stumbled into the command deck, her breath sharp with adrenaline. "What's happening?" she gasped. Ava's form shimmered into the holofield, her avatar glitching slightly. 3 incoming objects, high velocity, atmospheric entry achieved. No known transponder codes. Estimate contact in 90 seconds. Ambassador Saren arrived behind Mara, pale but composed. Do we assume hostile intent? They're not hailing us, Elias snapped. They're diving right into our airspace. Kale's voice cracked through the comms. They're here. The machines. The ones we told you about. Outside, the sky burned with streaks of fire. The construct emerged from the atmosphere like spearheads, sleek, obsidian-black shapes with jagged edges and no visible propulsion. They emitted no sound, only the crackling distortion of space where they passed. The first impact struck the eastern ridge, vaporizing rock and sending a seismic wave that toppled part of the ancient city. From the crash zone, a dozen quadruple machines unfolded like nightmares made of angles, their limbs bristling with weapons. Elias gave the order. Deploy drones, activate perimeter defenses. Do not wait for a second shot. The Dauntless lit up with a cascade of shield energy and retaliatory fire. Pulses of plasma arced through the air, striking the incoming machines. One exploded mid-leap. Another shrugged off the blast and kept coming. Mara watched through the viewport, frozen. They're not just attackers. They're scouring. Kale's voice buzzed again. They always test first. Then they race. Elias leapt into action, leading a strike team toward the outer perimeter. The landscape had turned into a battlefield, dust choking the air, the sky flickering with weapons fire, the machines moving with terrifying efficiency. They made no noise, no warning, only progress. Down below, Kale's people scrambled to defend themselves, but their weapons were outdated, ceremonial, ineffective against the invaders. Ava, 9 overrode the defensive turrets, targeting recalibrated, initiating suppression pattern gamma. Guns roared. Energy turrets began cutting down machines faster now, but the tide wasn't turning. It was holding, barely. Inside the temple ruins, Mara stayed behind with Nadia, working furiously to reactivate the crystalline transmitter. We need to call Earth, Mara said, sweat streaking her face. We need reinforcements now. Nadia didn't stop typing. It'll take minutes to align the signal. Minutes we might not have. Another explosion rocked the ground. The walls cracked. Screams echoed outside. Ava's voice pierced the chaos. New data. These machines are not acting independently. Signal traces detected. Encrypted local origin. Possibly being coordinated from within the planet. Mara froze. From within, it means someone or something is guiding them, Nadia said grimly, not just autonomous. A sick realization spread through Mara's chest. Kale, what if this wasn't a warning flare? What if it was a lure? She reached for a comm. Elias, come in. Static. Elias. Nothing. She turned to Ava. Patch me into a suit directly. A moment passed before his voice came through, ragged and strained. Holding ground, North Quadrant. Heavy resistance were being pushed back. Elias. There's a possibility this was coordinated from inside the planet. Someone could be calling them. A pause. Then you think Kale? I don't know, but find the source. Ava's tracing it. On the field, Elias ducked behind a scorched wall, blood trickling from his temple. He looked around, smoke, fire broke into rain. But then his helmet pinged. There, Ava's voice said in his ear, subterranean node, 80 meters beneath your position. He led his team forward, down into an access tunnel carved centuries ago. It stank of metal and ancient decay. And in the darkness, pulsing with faint red light, they found it. A transmitter, not alien, but recent, embedded with Tech 2 advanced to be local. And standing beside it, the silence after the storm was not peace. It was the stillness of a battlefield too exhausted to echo. Smoke curled above the ruined plains, casting long, dancing shadows over the broken landscape. The shattered husks of the machines lay motionless, their once humming cores now cold as iron tombstones. But no one celebrated. Victory was a word too arrogant for survival. Inside the Dauntless, repairs were underway. Sparks flew from damaged conduits, and the med bay overflowed with wounded, humans and natives alike. Mara Voss moved from stretcher to stretcher, her hands stained, her face set in quiet determination. She was a medic, but she refused to sit still. "You should rest," Elias said, his voice worn thin. Mara looked up, dark circles under her eyes. "Later. There's still too much we don't know." Nadia stood by the central display table, watching the planet's scanned surface rotate in slow orbit. Ava identified 6 other possible transmitter nodes buried across the continent. If one faction activated the machines, the others might do the same. They were fragmented before, Elias added. Now they know we're here. We've changed the balance. Kale entered then, his armor still scorched from battle. His expression was unreadable, somewhere between regret and grim purpose. "We must act before they regroup." Mara stepped closer. "You said they betrayed you. Why? What did they want?" Kale stared at the holomap, the flickering red marks where danger still lingered. They feared extinction. When the machines came, they saw cooperation as surrender. They broke from us, embedded themselves with forbidden tech. Fused thought with silicon, traded empathy for endurance. Transcendence. Ava 9 said, "An old ambition always ends the same." They see emotion as weakness. Kale said, "They survive by becoming something else. Not alive, not entirely machine." Elias turned toward Mara. "What do you think? Can we strike the nodes before they reactivate?" "We'd need precision," she replied. "Each one is likely defended. We can't just destroy them. We have to understand what they're transmitting, what they're calling. There might be others listening beyond the system." Ava interjected. "We have decoded partial fragments." A recurring symbol appears in each node sequence, a glyph that resembles a map. Nadia stepped forward. "Coordinates." "Yes, but not here. Not even in this system." Mara's eyes narrowed. They were sending something out, a signal to someone else. Kale's voice dropped. "A backup, a contingency. If they fell, they'd summon what they couldn't defeat." Elias muttered, "A fail-safe extinction." For a long moment, no one spoke. The Dauntless hummed quietly, as if listening. Then Mara said, "We need to reach one of those other nodes. Not to destroy it yet, but to decode it fully. We need to know what's coming." Kale nodded. "The closest is buried in the city of Mirren, once a sanctuary. Now a ghost wrapped in vines and rust." Elias looked at Nadia. "We'll need a team. Small, fast, if this is a trap." "It will be," she finished. "But it's a necessary one." The journey to Mirren took 12 hours across poison winds and jagged terrain. The ruins of the city loomed like the skeleton of a god, buildings half swallowed by nature and violence. The silence there was deeper than elsewhere, too quiet, too still. They moved through the broken streets. Mara, Elias, Kale 2 soldiers, and Ava's mobile core, a compact drone gliding silently overhead. Inside what had once been a civic center, they found it another crystalline array, still active, humming faintly. Mara knelt beside it. Same structure, but the energy signature is wrong. It's amplifying something. Ava's voice cut in. "They've already sent a signal." Elias raised his weapon. To who? A flicker, then a hum behind them. The machines were not coming. They were already here. From the walls and shadows, shapes unfolded. Not as crude as a previous wave, but refined, sleeker, adaptive. They moved with a grace that mimicked life too closely. "Back!" Elias barked, opening fire. Kale engaged, his spear slicing through one with a burst of blue energy. Ava deployed an EMP field, buying them seconds, but only seconds. Mara stayed crouched over the array. "I can disrupt the signal, but I need time."